Hello, everybody. Welcome to It's Your Money. This is our 2-day conference dedicated to tackling financial literacy and education for artists in the music industry at large. We are super excited to host this event as these conversations are so critical, especially as we live, work, and create in the complex world of the music business. Topics over the next 2 days include crafting your financial team, new revenue streams, business management, wealth management, navigating financial mistakes, and many others. You'll notice that this program takes place on Socio. This is our new platform packed full of features that lets us be more interactive, and we can't wait for you guys to experience it. Please watch the important informational video to learn all about the features Socio has to offer. Some of these features include networking in the Jacksta Lounge, an attendee directory, event wall to post about the event, amongst others. In addition, I was thrilled to have a great interview with Jackie Louis Stroll, the founder of Jacksta, yesterday, and you can find that interview in Socio under the agenda on yesterday's date. It was a great conversation, so please check it out. Before we get started, I want to make sure to say thank you to Empire for sponsoring this event, so thank you, Empire. All right, now let's dive into the program. My first guest, very excited to welcome Sally Velazquez, the founder and partner at Empower Business Management. Sally, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon, everybody, or late afternoon. I don't know where you guys are at.
Wherever, all over the world. So we always get people from all over. So Sally, this is a really exciting opportunity for us to talk to you. You have multiple things to your credit. You were actually originally an attorney, right?
Yes.
But you are now a business manager. You were featured on Billboard's 2021 Top Business Managers list, which is very cool. Go ahead.
Do I even credit that to myself? Because I feel like I have such an amazing team that I always feel bad because I'm like, they helped me get here,
Yeah, as it should be, totally. I feel the same way with my team. They're amazing. So it's awesome. So, but can you tell us some about your journey? Because I think your journey and your story is really interesting. You started in one place and kind of ended up somewhere else, but it's all about what you love and what you want to do and who you want to help, right?
Yeah. So let's just start with, I wanted to be Mariah Carey, but that didn't work out. And somehow I found a career where I'm working with musicians, and it's just kind of, I always tell people this because I used to always, I was very obsessed with her, and still am obsessed with her. And I was always like, I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to do this in music. And I was very good at solving problems and maybe arguing a little bit too much with my parents and stuff like that. So eventually Mariah Carey didn't happen, but I decided to go to law school, and in law school, that was the time I just kind of found myself. So I was always great with numbers, and for me, it was just a no-brainer to get into tax law because I just understood it, and from there, I actually remember people saying, you're going to have a couple of careers in your life and you don't really know where you're going to wind up. And I completely agree because I would never have seen myself being where I'm at right now. After law school, I decided to go work at a Big Four accounting firm. And it was great, except, for me, I'm a people person and I like to speak to people. I like to see that I'm making a difference in whatever I'm doing. And when I was working at a Big Four, you're kind of just the person behind the computer. You're working on your Excel. You never actually really interact with the clients, and you don't really get to feel like you're making a contribution, or your contribution is just a small drop in the big scheme of things. So it wasn't for me, I just felt like I needed more. And that's when I moved to LA. I'm originally from Chicago. And I moved to LA and I found out what business management was. And I thought it was just incredible that you get to talk to these clients and actually help them understand what's going on with their entire business. Because, everybody in the music business is their own employer, they're self-employed, and they have, everything for them is just they're the CEO of their business. And so for me, I felt like this is so amazing to be able to work with so many talented people and actually see that I'm making a difference in their lives. So here
Absolutely.
we are.
And maybe someday you'll be Mariah Carey's business manager.
You know what? I probably can't. I hope she never sees this because I would not be able to say no to her. Everybody else, I can say no. Don't buy the pink yacht. Don't buy the Rolls Royce or whatever it is. But with her, I'll be like, pink plane, yeah, sure.
Got it. Okay, well let's jump off of that because that's really important. So like you have this ability, you have to say no to people. Why do you say no? And what's the context?
Okay, so it's a bigger issue. So for me, let me get into like what I actually do with my clients and how we kind of maintain what we're actually doing. So everybody out there, when you're a new artist, you have different streams of income and you need to like understand how you're making money and also what you're responsible to pay. Because for me, a lot of times the clients don't really understand. They see, hey, I just got a big advance and that's my money, and I want to buy a house. I want to buy all these things with it, but they don't really understand like what they're responsible to pay. And maybe that big advance isn't really so big. So when you first start off, you need to know how you're making the money, what you're responsible for. So if it's an advance from like a record label, you might need to look at the fine print and hopefully you have a great lawyer that's going to assist you with getting a contract. But you need to look to see, okay, do I owe management commissions? Do I owe legal fees? Do I have to pay for all my recording costs? Do I have to pay for my videos that I promote? Do I have to pay for the producers that are producing my music? If you're not a producer, there's like so many different costs. And then you also got to remember, hey, I got to pay taxes because when it comes down to it, the man wants his money too. So you want to, when you get money, you want to make sure that you're budgeting. So eventually I'll get into your question of how I say no to them. But before I say no, we need to know why I'm saying no. So the budget basically starts with, hey, like you're getting this big advance, but minus all these people, plus you have to set aside whatever money for recording or for promoting or advertising or getting a publisher. And then you got to, whatever that net amount is, you got to remind yourself that you got to pay about 30% of that in taxes. So you want to put aside money for taxes as well. And then after all that, you're like, okay, do I have money left over for me? So now you start with, okay, this is the net after taxes. This is the money that I should be, that is just mine, that I could decide what I need to do. So we start there with our clients, and then we ask them, like, what's your goal? So if your goal is to buy a car, if it is to buy a house, then I'm a very goal-oriented person. It's like, that's what you want to do, or you just want to tell me you want to never work when you're older, you want to retire at this age. So we start with that goal. And now we look at what's your monthly income, like what's your monthly expenses. So with the expenses, we look to see how much you're spending on just rent, your telephone, your just basic stuff. And then from there, I kind of like, depending on how much I think the advance is going to cover, I look at how many months that I think we need to use this money to cover your basic costs. And from there, like whatever that money that's left now, if you have money left at this point, that's when I say, yes, you can afford the car, go for it. You made $20 million, you could do it. Or hells no, you're not buying this. We are like, remember, you have to pay for yourself. And if you buy this, you're going to not be able to afford X, Y, Z, or, hey, this isn't a smart move because you told me you wanted to buy a house. And now if you go ahead and buy this jewelry or buy this car, you're never going to get to that house. So it's kind of a bigger picture. Lots of conversations should be had. But the biggest thing that you need to make sure that you're doing for yourself is just understanding where your money's going, understanding what you actually have and not just what's sitting in your bank account right now.
Yeah, and that's such a good lesson. I mean, every artist needs to understand that. I think it's really tough too, because I used to be an artist manager many years ago, and I always say like 15% of zero is zero, right? So it's like, when the band is young and everyone's just starting out and they're not making any money, they're happy to have a manager and they're happy to say you can have 15%, 20% of my income streams because 15% of zero is zero. But when that money starts flowing in, especially if they're used to paying nothing because they weren't making anything, all of a sudden one day they're like, wait, what do you mean we got this large amount of money and you're getting a certain percentage of it? So it's like, it's even when people have agreed to things, it may be some years down the road and they don't even remember that they agreed to that and they don't see that coming off the top.
Yeah. And so I think that that's where a lot of people get into trouble. I actually just had rolled on some new clients, and they have been in this industry for a long time, and they never once did a tour budget for themselves. So I am like I'm going to say I'm the queen of budgets at this point, because I will budget for everything. Because for me, I don't understand. I'm not going to be able to tell you if you can afford something if I don't know what you're spending your money on. So I think that everybody out there, you need to like really, I know you're creative types, and creative types are not really going to sit down and work on the financial aspects so much. They're more thinking about, hey, if my music sounds good, or if my look is right, or whatever it is. But you also need to eat. So you want to make sure that you're saving enough for you, and you're looking at what you're spending. So for example, these new clients I rolled on, they never had a tour budget. So they came to me and they told me, Sally, we literally have been on tour for years and we never make money on tour. And I'm like, that sounds pretty strange, because you guys are pretty popular. So I don't understand what's happening. So I sat down with them and I said, okay, well, let's go over a show. And we did a budget together. And I said, just tell me everything that you guys need when you're on a show. And they said, I need a live band. We need these many dancers. I need the lighting person, and I need 2 assistants, and I need everybody has their own makeup artist and hairstylist and all this stuff, right? So I put it in, and I was like, and this is why you guys wind up having to pay for the show, because you got to think that you have about 20 people going on tour with you, or whatever, and you're paying for hotels and flights and just all this stuff as not just their actual fee. And when they looked at it, they were like, no wonder we've been like never making money, and we're always feeling like we're spending money. And from there, we now had the second conversation was, hey, so what can we cut? What do you really need? Because ultimately, do you really even want to do this show? What's the point of doing the show? Is it for a business purpose? Like, hey, we're losing money, but you absolutely need to do this show at Coachella or something. Or is it because you want to make money? Now, hopefully, because I like to hear they want to make money. So it's like, if you want to make money, then we're going to have to make some cuts and make some better decisions. Like, you don't need your own makeup artist. You don't need to have a stylist go on tour with you. You could dress yourselves. These conversations they never had, it blew their mind. And so they were like, we would have never brought dancers if they would have knew that it was going to cost so much. So now they're pretty excited because they have like a realistic budget. They know they're going to come back with money, and it's a whole different thing. So I think, it's not just always about money when you're going on tour. I get it. When you're starting off, sometimes you just got to get your name out there, and you're going to basically maybe wind up not making money or even having to spend money. But these are decisions you need to understand before you do it. You don't want to come back and be like, damn, I spent all this money on this tour, and now I can't afford to do this, and that. Like, you want to make sure before you do these things that you're making an educated decision about why you're doing it.
Exactly. And also that you can still do something artistic within a budget. I always think, it's like, if you're getting, let's say, a $250,000 guarantee for a show, but your stage show costs $300,000, that's not worth it. You're not, let's find a way to cut $100,000 out of that budget. And then suddenly you're making decent money. And if you pay 10 dates, play 10 dates, that's $5 million. Mm-hmm. So, it's critical. I feel like there's always like a little bit more that people need to know. Like you said in the first part of what you're saying, they get a big advance, right? The rest of that sentence, an advance is an advance against royalties, right? So that's money that you get up front, but that you don't then get on the back end. So you have to probably explain that to them too.
That's definitely true. So this is why I think the biggest, whoever's out there, at some point, you should start off with having a good team that really explains what you're getting into. A business manager that would be me. I would explain how you make the money. What does that entail? Put you on budgets. So that way, whatever your ultimate goal is, whether it's retiring or whether it's buying a house or something, that's what we're trying to meet. But I would say another really important person to have is a lawyer, because when you have your lawyer is going to explain what contracts you're actually signing over to. And one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of young artists make is that they didn't really understand what they signed up for with their label. And now they're in these label deals, and I don't want to put it with the label, but just in any deals that publishing or whatever, and they didn't really understand what that meant. So let's get into the nitty gritty, right? So let's say you sign a deal with a label or a publisher or somebody, and they said, hey, we're going to give you for 3 albums, we're going to advance you for the first album $1 million, right? And you're like, oh my God, I'm rich, I got $1 million. All right, but you also have a manager, and you also have, your business, like whoever else is on your team. So we already talked about $1 million isn't $1 million. It's $1 million minus whoever's on your team that's getting paid, taxes, and then also putting aside money for you to, do recording or whatever you need to do, because these advances, there's always clauses that, hey, you got to pay for all of the videos, you have to pay for all the producers, whatever that is. So now that you know that, it's just like, okay, so I had this advance. So when does the label actually pay me again for my actual record? Let's say you had an amazing song and you're like, how come I'm not getting money on this song? Well, your label or your publisher, whatever it is, whatever deal, they're in the deal. It's going to say what percentage the label or publisher make off of your music. So let's say it's a 70-30 split, meaning if you made $1 million on a song, they're taking the first 30%, you're making 70% after. And then from there, from that 70% that you have, anything that they paid for you, like maybe marketing costs to put you on the radio, that gets taken out of your 70%. And then from as well is whatever advance that you got. So let's say you got that $1 million advance, but from your 70%, you only recouped, and there's these words, recouped and unrecouped. So you only recouped 500. That means that you're not getting any money yet until they actually fully recoup that $1 million advance. So for me, it's like, okay, you get $1 million for one album. Maybe your album makes money, maybe it doesn't, but like you almost need to have the album sell almost $2 million in order for you to start really seeing some money come back in. And that could be a year or 2 years, or it could be never. It could be like, hey, the album didn't make money. And that's actually in your best interest is if you stay unrecouped, because they basically paid you for something that they never got their money back. So just a little thing. You want to stay unrecouped. But just remember that now that if you don't recoup for years, that advance could be the advance that you need to like basically hold on to and use for a couple years, like not just, hey, I'm going to do this and then I'm hopefully going to get money in 6 months.
Right. And I think that's a really important point, because I think very few people really come into the music industry having a great background in financial management, and that's why we're doing this event, over the next 2 days, because I think that's normally most kids, especially like artistic kids who are, want to be rappers or musicians or rock stars or whatever, they don't necessarily know the basics of like, how do I have a career in music, right? Like, how do I have lasting staying power? And I think this whole financial conversation, like a lot of times people don't want to talk about it. I think it feels like, oh, I'm cheapening my art if I talk about like the financial side of it. But the bottom line is you don't get to stay in this business if you can't make a living, because you have to eat, like you said. So, you have to make a plan so that you can survive. And like you said, if you have an artist where that $1 million advance is all they're foreseeably going to get, then you have to have a different attitude. And it's like, in terms of the planning, right? Like, so how are we going to make this $1 million last 5 years? Because that's the worst case scenario, right? Best case scenario is 6 months from now, your single goes flying up the charts, you sell gazillions of copies of the album and you recoup, and then you start to make money again, in which case they then have to come back to you and say, all right, we have these other income streams. How do we handle that?
And there's more than just the advance. So we talked about 2 income streams as an artist, and I'm just going to throw out a couple of other ones, because it's not just about, okay, I make money off my album, which is there's several streams there. There's your publishing, that's as a songwriter. There's your recording, that's what the label basically does. And then there's sound exchange, BMI, these PROs. So whatever you're doing, just make sure that you're understanding what income streams there are. And I think there's another class that they might actually go into, like the royalties, how they act, what streams that they get. Now, besides royalties, there's also merchandise. So when you're on tour, you maybe want to sell your merchandise. There's also touring, which is a big one. But then, you're also at some point when you get to a good point in your career, you should probably trademark your name, because now your name could be worth something as well. What else is there? So the craziest one that I thought was nuts, after all, you could do endorsement deals too. COVID hit, right? So touring stopped last year, and everybody was like, what do we do with our time now? And all of a sudden, this brand new income stream called NFTs. I don't know if you guys out there have heard of this, but I'm sure you guys have. But for me, it's blowing my mind, because I'm always telling people, okay, you're getting paid on merch and touring and endorsement deals and this, and maybe if you do TV and if you're on YouTube and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, we're not going to have touring money. So what's new? And the new thing now is this NFT, which is selling. I'm still like trying to wrap my head around who even thought to create this thing of selling your painting with your music. That's digital only. It's interesting. So what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of ways that you make money. So you don't just think, okay, I have this advance, but also like whoever's working with you, or if you're working by yourself, really think through, okay, what other ways can I make money? Maybe it's not just my music, but maybe I can start doing acting or go into television, or maybe try to see if I could get a team that's going to help me get endorsement deals because I wrote a song about Nikes or something. And maybe, I mean, Nikes is the worst probably example, but they never do. But just something like that. So it's kind of like there's bigger conversations. Like that's what I talk about to my clients with. It's like, hey, we got your big advance now, and that's great. So we're probably not going to see some money for a while regarding those type of royalties. But let's talk about other ways that you can make money. And so that's something that you should always be thinking of, like, what else can I do to make money? And somebody thought up an NFT and it works. So I just think that that's kind of amazing. Who knows what's happening next,
Well, exactly. And that's such a big thing, because right now income streams are changing all the time. I mean, we have an entirely different group of income streams now than we had even 5 years ago. Things are totally different. But to speak to what you just said, I think whenever I used to manage artists, or when I ran a label and talked to artists, I would always say, I know this sounds really corporate and crappy, but the truth is you are your own brand, right? An artist is their own brand. And ultimately, in the long run, what that means is your brand has value, your name has value, your whatever you are in the world, you can associate yourself with things as another way to make money. So, it's whether you endorse something or whether you, whatever, I think about whoever was the manager for, was it Travis Scott, who went into Fortnite? Like, he was the first artist to play in Fortnite. And so all of a sudden, my 9-year-old, who has like literally never cared, is like, I love Travis Scott, and is like wanting all his music and listening to all his music because he played in Fortnite. And I was like, that was a genius move. Whoever thought that up. So, it's like, that's the other fun part for your job, is that you get to then stay on top of all these new income streams that keep popping up.
Yeah. I mean, I love it, because I'm just always excited to see them. I always look at it like I want to retire, and all of my clients are going to retire at some point as well. And that's my goal for them, because I have goals and then they have their own goals, whether it's whatever they wanted to do. My ultimate goal for every one of my clients is they retire, they don't, they use their money wisely, and they don't really have to work so hard when they're older. And I mean, I feel like it's kind of interesting, because as soon as you start the music business, a lot of people are very young. They don't even know, like, hey, so I'm getting this huge advance, and what should I do with it? Like, you said that I have to pay taxes. Is there a way that I could save money on taxes? Which, by the way, I'm a tax attorney, so that's my specialty. And it's like, hey, let's see. Now, at this point, depending on the advance, maybe we need to set you up with a corporate structure. So what that means is instead of earning the money in your own name, maybe you need to create an entity to put this money. Now the entity would be, there's several different kind of entities, and it's really hard to say this is the entity for you. You really probably should talk to some type of tax advisor who can assist you, because every year the laws changes with tax. So sometimes it's a C Corp year, sometimes it's an S Corp, or maybe we just want an LLC because it's not that much. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of different ways that you could save money on taxes in general. So I would say, you really do. Like, my biggest issue is I started this whole conversation by saying I haven't got anywhere that I've got right now without my team. And I think that a lot of people really do need a good team behind them. And these team people, like whoever you choose for your team, really should give you good advice on, hey, the business manager should be telling you, hey, you need this corporate structure to support this taxes, and here's your budget for whatever years or whatever we're doing the budget for. And then you also, like I said, need a good manager like Portia used to be, I'm assuming, and who's going to basically help you get these deals and help you get these different income streams. And then the lawyer who's going to make sure that your contracts are not horrible.
Right. And it's funny because I feel like that's changed. I've been in this business a really long time, and like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, there were a lot of people who came in, artists who came into this business who were just like, I hate corporate America. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. But the funny thing is like, that is also a sentiment that you have when you're 18, 20, 22, 23, but everybody gets older, right? And eventually even artists want to buy houses. Even artists want to get married and have kids. Even artists start thinking about like, oh, how am I going to send my kids to college? So this, you change throughout your lifetime. And so you need to have a team in place to help you figure out how to do this. Because, I don't know about you, but I've seen 100 horror stories, right? Of just people who had so much potential and who just crashed and burned because they couldn't manage their money and they couldn't figure out how to do this as a job.
No, I agree. I think for me, that's like probably my worst nightmare with my clients, is that that's never the good thing. So I kind of feel like I always warn people beforehand. It's like, if you guys, people spend so much time on social media all the time, like 10 minutes or 20 minutes to look through and scroll. Well, there's amazing apps out there that can help you budget your money. I'm not promoting any of them, but I'll say mint.com is a good one, because all you have to do is just link your bank accounts to it. You could set yourself up on a budget with it, and it'll automatically tell you, hey, you went over on meals, or hey, your budget's getting low. Maybe you can't afford to have like a business manager at this point in time, but you can afford to download an app for free to help you budget and make sure that, while you're right now, like you're knowing where your money is being spent. And that way you're not in a situation where, and some clients I have had clients that came to me, they never paid their taxes. So they got these big advances, and now it's a year later, they used all the money, they bought whatever they needed to buy. And they're like, hey, but they bought things that are not tax deductible. So if you tax deductible stuff is great. If you wind up having zero money, but all of it was business expenses, then you don't owe taxes. But they bought things like jewelry or, cars that they can't really deduct. And now they're like, hey, why do I have such a huge tax bill? And it gets complicated, because then you got to be like, well, you still have to pay this tax bill, but you don't have any money in your account to pay it. And that's a problem. And so, there's ways to, you got to do installment plans and stuff like that. But, you don't want to be like a huge celebrity who's not paying their taxes, because guess what? TMZ will report you. And you've probably seen some of the things in the news with some of these big ones. And I love to tell my clients, and I don't want to not scare them, but tell them look, everybody heard of Al Capone, right? This guy was a big mean guy from Chicago, and he did all these things, and the cops never were able to put him in jail. But guess what? He didn't pay his taxes, and the IRS was able to put him in jail. So when it comes down to it, you definitely want to make sure that you're taking care of the things that you have to pay. And the way to do that is, before you spend the money, know where your money's going. And that's by just, hey, you're gonna spend 10 minutes on social media, spend 1 minute just looking at what your bank is at, where your bank is at. And if you're following along with the budget that you set for yourself. It doesn't take that long. And I'm sure like there's tons of resources out there that can help you figure this out. But I would say start with just the basics. How much do you spend on rent, telephone, budgets, things like that? So you know what your monthly spend is, and that's your basic where to start.
That's such good advice. That's amazing. And I feel like there's tons of tools. Someone in the chat just said automating money to go into savings really helps too. That's super easy to set up.
We can go into savings. I've been telling you guys all the things you have to spend your money on and taxes. And it's like after you do all that, what you should, for the retirement purposes, you definitely you can start saving yourself. You can do like Acorns. There's some automatic savings plans. There's also Robinhood. I would tell everybody out there, be real careful with investing in cryptocurrencies. I know that it's all the rage and all this stuff, but I feel like it just dropped last week and a lot of people lost money. So it's kind of like you with crypto or with Robinhood, you only want to put in there what you think you'll absolutely lose because it's super risky. Actually, I think there is a course later in the day or maybe tomorrow where they're talking about wealth management. So at some point, let's say you did make it, you already bought the house, but now you got like all this money sitting in your bank. Well, what do you do with it? And there's actually really great advisors out there that will help manage it's not a business manager that's managing your expenses and your day-to-day and making sure you're taken care of. It's someone who's going to do these stock portfolios or help you do a 401k or a SEP IRA. And these are actually there's some tax benefits to some of these things too. At that point, that's when you want to hire someone to help manage your portfolios. And that way you can just live off the interest for the rest of your life and build wealth in your family, like generational wealth. So your kids become wealthy and their kids become wealthy. And then that's when you know you made it.
That's so true. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do with this event is really get people to understand all the different pieces. This is live. So of course you hear my cat desperately trying to kill to get into this bedroom. Like, why? There's nothing in here.
I actually can't hear that, but I'm glad my dog is not sitting on top of my head right now. What's going on?
Well, it's only a matter of time. My cat will try to, claw through the door. But anyway, so, we've only got a little bit left, but someone said in the chat, what happens when a client goes around you and decides to not take your advice? I mean, I guess that's just part of.
Okay, we've had these. Okay, this is what I do with my clients. Sorry. So if you really want to do something, I hate jewelers and they hate me because they know I hate them. Maybe hate is a strong word, but I don't like them. I just feel like people get taken advantage of with jewelry, but whatever. So let's say they decide I'm going to buy this jewelry anyway. Now there's 2 steps that I do with my clients to make them really think it through. Because mind you, you're paying me, this is your money. I can't tell you not to spend your money. I can't force you not to spend it. You could go to the bank, you can take all your money out, it's your money. But you're hiring me to give you advice. So when they decide to do something I don't agree with, bring out all right, you got to sign this form that says Sally told you not to buy this stupid thing, but you decided to buy it anyway, and that's fine, but she really disagrees with you and you're going to ignore her. Something like that. And when I threaten to basically bring this out, they really think it through damn, do I really want to sign the form? Or she's bringing out the form, or even talking about it. The second thing is, let's say I don't agree with it. It's something that I just really don't want them to spend their money on, but they are really adamant. And now it's not something that's jewelry, but maybe it's something that's more meaningful for them. And I don't see the benefit of it. Then that's when I bring out the negotiation tool. It's all right, you really want to do this, then I'm not going to stop you from doing this with your money, but I think we should do 2 things. We should either figure out how we're going to pay for it outside of the money you already have. So maybe that means you need to do another post on Instagram, endorse something, or rethink, you said you want to rethink whatever your already fixed assets are. So maybe we shouldn't be using your card on clothes anymore or something. So I'll go that route, or I'll say, all right, if you do this, then the next big purchase has to be what I view is a good investment. And that's usually, I say I want them to buy like investment property, because for me, I always feel like that's just, even like buying property in California is like ridiculous. It's like $1 million just to start with like a shabby house. But for me, I'm like, hey, maybe you could buy property in Palm Springs or just somewhere where the prices are more reasonable. And that way we can have some passive income for you later on in life. So it's like a whole negotiation. The biggest thing that I love, though, is that my clients actually, regardless, they still do talk to me and tell me, I'm going to do it. I don't care. And we still kind of have the conversation about it, and we go through these steps, but nobody really ever buys a car without me knowing, like there's no point. If you're going to do something like that, then you really don't need a business manager. You should have somebody that you trust who is going to tell you what you really need to hear. And I mean, if it's not me, like if my clients ever did that to me, then I'm not doing my job, and I'm not letting them feel like they can talk to me. So, you got to find somebody that you are able to talk to.
That's awesome. I'm so glad I asked that question. I'm so glad Miriam asked that question in the chat, because that's, it's like, I feel like you're really providing a service for your clients. This is something real, and it's tough, especially when people are big rock stars, just in the world of, the entertainment world, because a lot of people just kiss their butts. A lot of people just tell them what they want to hear. And to have just one person on their team who's like willing to say, like,
I feel like my clients are like, who are the people that are supposed to tell me what I want to hear? Because I don't think I tell them. I support them, and I'm really passionate about what they're doing and making sure that they're okay financially and just mentally as well. Like I'm on a big, kick for everybody getting mental health, especially after COVID. A lot of stuff happened, but look, this is my thing. You shouldn't be wrapped around yes men. If that's what you find yourself, if nobody's able to tell you the truth, then you probably need to get at least one person on your team that can tell you the truth, because for that, then you don't need to team. Why are you going to hire these 5 people who are basically just going to agree with everything you say? There's no point. The reason you hire us is because we have experience and we're educated in this, and we're teaching you. You should be asking us questions and learning, and at some point get so well that you knew everything that maybe you don't even need us anymore. Like that's the goal. You don't, it's, I don't want to keep going harping on about this, but I just feel like, ultimately, you need someone who's going to just be real with you. That's all.
Right. And that's sometimes hard. And like I said, I like to try to think of artists as having a career that spans many decades, because I feel like sometimes people are at the point in their career where they're not able to hear that, but then maybe they'll get there later, and it's like maybe they can come back to having a team, because it's, this is unfortunate. Like, this is like just the real truth, right? I mean, no matter what job you have to manage your money. Mm-hmm. So part of the deal. So,
and then I will just say the last thing, because I know we're probably wrapping up, is whoever you do work with, make sure that you're able to ask questions all the time. I love when my clients ask me questions. I give them information, even though they don't probably want to hear it. Like, that's why they hate my long calls, but they love it. But I like to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, so no one can ever say, I don't know where my money went. So if that's your lawyer, if that's your manager, you really need to ask these questions, and don't just assume I pay them, that's their job, I don't care. Because guess what? You're the CEO of your company, and it's your job to know everything that's going on in the company. Maybe you're not the expert at the taxes or at getting the negotiations, but you need to know every contract you sign. You need to understand where your money's being spent and why it's being spent. And you need to really understand where your career is going too. Like, why are you doing these endorsement deals? Is it helping you in the future or benefit, whatever it is, or why you're not doing those deals? So just, I would say, own your career, because it's yours,
Well, exactly. And I always say, if there's money out there to be made in your name, you better be making it, because if you're not collecting it, someone else might be, they're unscrupulous people, you don't, and you might not even know that. What if your manager is taking your money? I mean, how many stories have we heard of that over the last 40 years of the music industry? I mean, I can think back to stories like that. And part of that is, of course, someone's unscrupulous, but on the other hand, there's some responsibility in the artist. You have to pay attention. This is your money.
Make sure everything's in your name. And if it's not going to your bank account, there better be a really good reason why it's not.
Exactly. Well, Sally, this is a delight. I could talk to you for twice as long, but this is all the time we have. So thank you so much for coming on with us today, and we'll speak to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day and enjoy the rest of the panels that are going on. There's some good ones.